Just getting started here. Okay, I think we're live back here at the Delphian School. So welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you that have been with me in earlier weeks, this is Thomas Keogh. I'm going to continue. This is the third segment in my Who Makes the World One webinar. We did this weeks ago with some kids, and then we decided it was popular. It's good for people to learn about this topic that we would do it again. And the topic that I'm going to, or the section that I'm going to cover today is actually brand new. It goes over an example of a really unique clothing store, kind of like American Eagle or H&M that we hear today, a store called The Gap, which some of you may or may not be familiar with, depending on where you shop or your age. So welcome to everybody. See, we've got a good number of participants here today. As always, remember to put all your questions or your hellos or your welcomes or your assignments into the question and answer section, and I'll look at that in between each of the texts that I read to you today. So I'm really excited because today we're going to dive into an example of a big, successful business and sort of take a look at all the different pieces that went together that not only the people had to do themselves, but the different people, organizations and services and professionals that they had to use around them in order to make their business successful. So I hope you'll enjoy it. I'm not going to lie, there's a certain amount that I have to read from the learning guide. There's one or two sections that I'm going to skip over and kind of speed read through and just cover a couple of key elements from it, because we'll summarize it towards the end of the webinar today. So without further reasons to delay, let's get started. So I'm going to open up here into the text, which we are going to study today. Now, remember, this is, just to remind you, this is Who Makes the World Run. If you downloaded the pack, then excellent. We're going to read from the section that is number 3, calling Finding Jeans That Fit. And we're on page 3 here. Now, I am going to warn you that the next step after we read is an assignment that you can't really do in the webinar. I will tell it to you, and if you can do it very quickly, all the better. But it's very hard to do. So I actually emailed it out to everybody that participated last week in the hopes that some of you or all of you would do that homework assignment. So if you did, all the better. If you didn't, you might be struggling just a little bit with your assignment today. But good luck. Good luck. Okay, here we go. So, finding jeans that fit. If you have ever been glad to find a store that provides just what you were looking for, you know how nice that can be. But what if that store had not existed? And how do such stores come into existence? Let's take a look in some detail at a real example. Doris and Don Fisher opened Gap Incorporated in 1969 as a single store in San Francisco. According to the Gap website, Don was frustrated because he found it very difficult to buy Levi jeans that fit him well. He and Doris were experienced in business. They had worked with Don's father in a cabinet-making business and also had their own business of buying and renovating old hotels. The start of Gap. Doris and Don felt that selling jeans and pants could be a fast-growing business because other people probably had the same sort of frustration Don was experiencing. Eventually, they decided to open their own store, which would specialize in selling Levi jeans to customers in the 12 to 25-year-old age group. It would offer all the styles, colors, and sizes that Levi Strauss & Company made. According to the Gap website, Don said, "I created Gap with a simple idea, to make it easier to find a pair of jeans." That's very simple when you think about it. They also planned to sell music in the form of records and tapes. Of course, CDs and other digital downloads, they didn't exist in 1969. Doris and Don were entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur is someone who has an idea for a business and either starts it himself or provides money for others to get it going. Entrepreneurs usually have a lot of creativity, courage, or money, or some combination of these qualities. There are risks and costs involved in starting a new business. Doris and Don Fisher had some of all the above qualities, and they were willing to risk their money and time to create and run this new type of clothing store. Their risk and a lot of hard work paid off. After 19 years, there were over 3,000 Gap stores with combined sales of over $14 billion per year. What Don decided to do, he definitely achieved. He made it a lot easier for a lot of people to find a pair of jeans. It is a good example of how following one's own interests can benefit not only oneself, but also many others. Okay, great. So we're going to stop there and go on to the first assignment, which hopefully you did prior to the week. So I see a few questions here, but I think it's mostly hellos. And I can't wait to say hello and see some of the people that I know from earlier weeks. So thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Glad you like the classes. And hello, Isis. Nice to have you back. Jacob, nice to see you. All right. Milo, hello. If you could, Milo, please don't put so much into your hello, just a simple hello, so it's easier for me to read and move on. All right, so let's go over the first assignment. Excuse me for my nose itch. First assignment. Now, first of all, I'm going to sign off the step, which is what we always do at the Delphian School. When we use this little checklist and we finish the step, we sign off that we just did it. All right, so the assignment that I emailed to people, what you can try to do in the next 5-10 minutes as we're doing this class, was this. Choose one of your favorite stores or restaurants that can be found in many cities and look its history up on the internet. Try searching, of course, for history of blah. Keep trying until you locate a site where you can find out several of the following answers, information to these questions, and keep notes. So if you didn't do the assignment and you've got an internet, you could try to do this very quickly. You could plug in your favorite store. That might be H&M, could be maybe Walmart, I don't know. Could be a restaurant that you really like to go to, like Outback. And I want you to see if you can discover, if you haven't done it already, who started the company. Was it an individual, a couple of individuals? Who was the entrepreneur that started that company? Okay, if you can do that, that would be great. Okay, by the way, hello to others. Hello to others, thank you. And this is Who Makes the World Run, the second or third class, by the way. Hello, Ryan, nice to have you here. Jacob did the assignment, excellent, good for you. Hopefully others did it as well. All right, so you want to find out who are the individuals that started the company, when and where it was started, like 10 years ago, 30 years ago, in what state or what country? Why did they start it? What was their intention? What was their purpose? What was the reason behind it? What other ideas about the business the founders started with? Now that might be hard. If you haven't done the assignment yet, that might be hard to do. But if you could find out about this restaurant or company quickly, who started it? When and where was it started? Why did it get started? And key ideas about it, and things that happened along the way that made the business successful. So the idea is to do this research. Now the assignment was to do this with other companies until you find out several of the items above for 2 different companies, and write down what you learned about each of them in a paragraph or 2. So if you got my email and you did do this assignment, I would love you to just let me know in the question and answer, and maybe share just a little bit about what you discovered. You can't put the whole assignment here right now, but you could share a little bit about who the company was and maybe who started it and when it was started. And then I can share that with the rest of the group, okay? And of course, if you did do the whole assignment, you would like to share it with me, I would love you to email it to me, Thomas Keel, at events@delphian.org, and my associate will make sure I get it, and I'll make sure to answer you, okay? So Milo says, let's see, founded by Steve Ells. Here comes an assignment. On July 13th, 1993, Chipotle had 16 restaurants, all in Colorado. And then McDonald's Corporation became a major investor in 1998. By the time McDonald's fully invested itself in Chipotle in 2006, the chain had grown to over 500 locations. Wow, 500 locations. That's amazing. So that's an excellent research, Milo. So started by Steve Ells in July of 1993, 16 restaurants in Colorado. He got investors and help from outside corporations like McDonald's. And then years later, had 500 locations. Unbelievable. Unbelievable when you think about it. Okay, Ryan, great that you did. Thank you, Tom. If Ryan and Tom, if you can share a little bit, that would be great. Olivia says, this is an interesting piece of data. And maybe, Olivia, you did your research on Walmart. And if you did, please share it with us. So Olivia says, my grandfather was the first manager of the first Walmart. Can you believe that? I mean, that's like fascinating. I'm curious. I should know where that was and when that was. All I know is that I have a Walmart in my local town about 20 minutes away, and every once in a while I will shop there. Not so recently, but every once in a while if I have things I need. So if you did the assignment, I'm going to wait a couple more minutes. Please share with me your notes or if you're doing something right away, you can share a couple of the notes there. But that example above, very curious, Olivia, to know more about Walmart. And thank you, Milo, for your excellent research on Chipotle, which I have eaten at, and I have to say, pretty good burritos, pretty good taco salads to enjoy. So here comes Tom. I cannot believe this. Is this really true, Tom? This is unbelievable. Tom says, my grandfather was one of the first managers of Gap. That's amazing, Tom. If you have any idea where, I'm assuming that was in San Francisco, and for how long, that would be fascinating. And quite honestly, if he's still alive, it would be fascinating to know, what his job was like and some of the experiences and some of the growth that he experienced when he was involved in the Gap then. So some good examples. I think what we're going to do is begin just looking to see if there's others. I'm sure more will come in. So just to keep time moving forward, and we have a lot to cover today, I'm going to continue now with the next reading assignment to get your minds and your thoughts continuing forward. And then I'll look forward to, if you did the assignments or you have more to share, please do. You can share it right there in the question and answer with me, okay? All right, so we're going to check that off. It's kind of partially done. All right, so we're going to now read just another page. This page we're going to read in full, and then the next time we come into this learning guide, I'm just going to summarize a few things very quickly for you. So the rest of the story, a little bit imaginary. I mean, obviously we have some facts in here accurate, but some things we've taken the license to create a little bit with the story of what most likely happened with the Gap. A lot must have happened in those 19 years, and obviously it wasn't all done by Don and Doris. Even though many of the following things may have happened as they are described here, none of what follows is based on actual facts, except for the details about the actual store. We're just imagining the kinds of things that probably happened. Since it's imaginary, we'll start referring to the people starting the company as the owners and give some of the other people made-up names. So all of this is based on truth in terms of key things that happened with the Gap, but then we're adding to the story of things they must have also had to do. Getting something to sell. After they had the idea of opening Gap, the owners contacted Levi Strauss and Company, we'll now just call them Levi Strauss, to work out how to buy lots of jeans of all styles, colors, and sizes, so they could sell the jeans in their store. After some meetings, the owners and Levi Strauss signed a contract. A contract is an agreement, usually in writing, that a person or company must keep, even if one side of the agreement later on doesn't want to keep the agreement, they can be made by law to keep it. So it keeps the original agreements in place, and that way someone can't just run away from their deals financially or to produce things. All right, so in this case, Levi Strauss agreed to provide a certain number and types of jeans to the owners, and the owners agreed to pay a certain price for each pair they bought. The contract was important to the owners because if they risked their time and money opening the Gap, they had to depend on Levi Strauss to provide them with jeans at a certain price. If after 2 months Levi Strauss said, "We can't sell you jeans anymore," then the Gap would have gone out of business. The contract was also important to Levi Strauss because if they started making more jeans for Gap, but later Gap refused to buy them, then Levi Strauss could lose a lot of money. Setting up, let's see, I think that is, wow, that's already all. That's already it. Okay, great. So now we're going to get to the heading. Yeah, good. Okay, so now I'm going to give you another assignment very quickly, and maybe you've also shared a few others. That was a short read. The next one's going to be a little bit longer, but done in summary. So the next assignment is working off the first assignment. For the two businesses, or in this case one, you researched, imagine and work out as well as you can several types of help or materials they would likely need from another business in order to run their business. Try to give a few realistic examples of the sorts of businesses that might be able to supply this help or material. So, for the example of Chipotle, what other businesses or assistants or key companies or professionals would the owner have to get in contact with to build his company? Like McDonald's, like an investor, for example, okay? So what you're looking at here is the teamwork aspect that comes into who makes the world run. We can't always just do things 100% on our own. All right, so let me just make sure. Good, yeah, we're there. Okay, great. So let me look at some of your examples that you guys have shared or you've been talking about. So Tom says his grandpa worked there for 14 years at Gap. Wow, that's incredible. That's really incredible. And Milo says, My great-grandfather was friends with the founder of Kellogg. Okay, very good, very good. All right, so looking for more assignments or more input on the research work that you did do. For those of you that did do it, I would love to hear your examples. This is going to be a tougher day because you needed to successfully do the prior research in order to easily do the next one. So hopefully you've got a company in mind and you know a little bit about it and about when did it start, who started it, what are the main steps they went to make it successful, what was the idea, why did they start it. Now I want you to start looking at, imagine and work out help or materials that they would likely need from another business in order to run their business. We can't just do this totally on their own, right? Milo says ingredients imported from Mexico to go to McDonald's, to go to Chipotle. Okay, very good, very good. Either ingredients or a place to buy them locally, knowing that they are true or came from Mexico. A funny thing too, also, Milo, you may not realize this. Don't know if you've been to Mexico. I had the pleasure of going there a couple of times last year for the first time, and I discovered that there really aren't a lot of burritos in Mexico. They have tacos with corn tortillas, but not really burritos the way we think of it or the way we get it at Chipotle. Now, they have a lot of the ingredients that we use in a burrito, but they don't really do the flour tortilla or the burrito itself. Here comes Ethan with a great example. Let's share it, Ethan. Nintendo was founded by Fusajiro Yamauchi in the 1980s. It started by making playing cards. In the 1970s, it started by making Donkey Kong. Oh, wow, I can remember that myself. This game became more popular, so Nintendo started making more and more video games, growing to become what it is today. Well, that's very true, very, very big. So they started with one idea and broadened out into other ideas as it became more, more valuable, more interested. People wanted that product or that service. And Ethan, if you could now think about the next assignment. So what companies or what services or what materials or what kind of people do you think that Nintendo, the owner, Fusajiro, had to work with or obtain in order to successfully make his company work over the years? This is what I'd love to hear from you if you can. All right, so I think we've made it through all of our examples so far, so just waiting for a few more. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. If you did the research, please share it with me. Like this Nintendo example from Ethan is great. And, if you didn't do the research, but you're aware of a company, aware of a restaurant, you can maybe make up a little bit, but the main thing is to think about who else did that company have to work with. For example, let's take Outback, if you go to Outback, or the famous In-N-Out that's now in Salem. Who do they work with to get their meat? They probably have to do things to work on their marketing. Of course, they need to do things to get their supplies that they use. I suppose they need to do something about their advertising, have to work with an advertising company. However, In-N-Out is kind of famous for just its word of mouth because it's kind of unique to itself. So maybe they don't have a lot of advertising that they have to do. Okay, so I'm just going to note that we did that section. Very good, very good. Okay, so what I want to do is keep your mind whirling. I think we're through all the examples. Please, please, please keep your examples coming in if you can. And we will move on to the next section. Now this section, I'm going to pull out some of the key words and just summarize. And the reason is because it's quite long. And quite honestly, we're going to summarize it a little bit later in today's assignment. Going back to just earlier, Ethan said he originally needed to get paper to make the cards. That's good. So he had to work with the paper company, obviously. Probably had to work with designers, some kind of designer to draw the different things on the cards. Now they need to work with Americans or translators to get their game to America. Very true. And don't they have lots of gaming elements, right? So they probably have to work with lots of computer programmers. They probably have to work hard to hire some of the best ones that come out of colleges or certain trade schools on programming. They'll probably be looking for people that can think outside the box, right? And they probably also have to do a lot of marketing and research work to stay hip to what's trending out there in terms of computer games. My generation in computer games is different from my son's, which will be different from some younger person like yourself, because my son's already 26. But good example, Ethan, great example. Okay, so let's move forward here now. So setting up their business. So like I said, what I'm going to do is just talk about some of the bold things and glance at a paragraph and just talk about it briefly, right? So they needed a contract. So of course they had to work with lawyers. Lawyers will figure out the terms of contracts for both sides to make sure that it's fair and each person has their interest. Now they needed a building. They needed a building to open their store, whether they owned it or they rented it. So they had to work with a real estate agent. Real estate agents are there to help you lease, or what we call rent. Lease is more often used in business. So they're there to lease a property or to help you buy a building. So they worked with a real estate agent, working with different building owners and different people to find the right place. Now, let's say they got the place. We want that building. But now they need money. Maybe they have $50,000, $25,000, but the building is much more expensive. So you have to get a loan, as we know. We get a loan for things like our house, a commercial or a business building that we want to buy, maybe for our car if we don't have all that cash on hand. So you need a loan officer. And it's just a loan officer. There's lots of people at the bank that work with you as well. So let's say now you've got the building, but things have to be changed about it. You want it to look a certain way. You want it to work a certain way. So you're going to work with architects and interior designers both to make sure that building matches your needs. Because once you own it, or sometimes when you lease it, you have the right to change things in it, and that's always necessary. A contractor. So of course, once you design the place, a contractor, as you may know, is the main construction guy that's managing those changes and working with all of the people that are building out different things in your store. So all of these things are very, very key. Okay, so now we've got the building, we got it purchased, we've got it renovated to how we want, we're kind of ready to go, but now we need to make sure we have business, people to buy. So getting customers, let's take a look at what this section says right here. So getting customers, so we got to advertise and promote. Sometimes we have to make sure we hit our right public, right? So we need an advertising art director and a researcher. Why? Well, you can't just guess what you want to promote. You have to design a campaign, right? You have to design, and you have to know who you want to promote to. Remember, these were genes that were going to be for 12 to 25 years of age. So you got to make sure you know who you want to promote to, who you're going to reach as you open up your business. Then once you have that plan all worked out, then you need to advertise it through certain ads, certain magazines, certain companies, maybe on the radio, possibly on TV. Of course, TV can be a little more expensive, so you might have to launch your company before you go into television. But there could be radio, there could be magazine, there could be signs put out, there could be advertisements in very specific places. And you want to make sure you get to the right place for the right cost to hit the right people, right? Okay, good. So that's getting customers. And the last section we can briefly talk about up and running. You know, this is basically just making sure you have a store well supplied, making sure that employees are being hired, that the employees are being trained, making sure that your opening is well promoted. And then, of course, maybe managing that opening. Once you open, how's it going? What are your sales? How much product do you need? Who else can be advertised to? Are we getting good word of mouth and things like that? Okay, so we're going to stop there because that brings us, yes, down to the last section, which we'll read in just a minute. Okay, I'm hoping you guys have a few more examples in here, and we're going to cover them briefly and then talk about the next assignment. So give me a second just to catch up with you. Fortnite, Milo says Fortnite, which is, I guess, another computer program as well, right? Okay, guys, now don't forget, you know, I'm running this webinar, but I can only do so much. I can yak a lot, but I need your examples, your homework, your thoughts, your ideas shared as often as you can here in order to make the seminar that more engaging. Quite frankly, the thing I like to do the most is read your examples. Share them with you, give them back to you, and maybe give you a little feedback off of them. So please do share, excuse me. Okay, so here comes the next assignment, and then we have a summary and one more assignment. Okay, so for the same company here that we've been using, think about and work out advertising you would think they would likely need to do. What would be most useful? So for whether it be the Walmart example, the Chipotle example, Nintendo example, other examples that somebody hasn't shared. I like your bottle. Thank you, Isis. And as you may have seen, it says Delphi. This is one of our fun logo points. Love, knowledge, integrity, ethics, leadership, Delphian School. I like it too. I think I got it a couple of years ago because I'm a graduate of the school. So I got that as a small acknowledgement. So let's see. So it says, work out what sort of advertising you think would most likely be useful in helping these companies get the word out to potential customers and attract them into the businesses. So if you haven't done the main assignment, if you just want to think of your favorite company, where you like to shop, if you want to think about where you like to eat, what product you like to get, and where you get that, and then work it backwards and think, okay, what advertising does that company do? What advertising did they need to do in order to start and launch their company to make it successful at the beginning? Well, then I would love to hear about that. Love to hear about that. Here it says, like, if you think about a certain magazine, please share what that might be. It could be something online, where you know about something online. That would be also good as well. Okay, so let's hope that you guys are coming in with some more assignments. So now take your companies and let me know what kind of advertising, what kind of promotions would need to occur. Okay, so Milo says, this is going back to Chipotle. Now, Milo gave a great example and he's participating. I need the rest of you to toss in your examples as well. Pretty please. And I know you're out there because there's 20 people in my webinar, which is really cool. So let's get some more assignments typed in here in the question and answer. Milo says, taking pictures of someone eating a burrito. That's great, Milo. And obviously it would have to be a colorful picture, definitely show how much he likes it. Maybe be put in a good setting, whether it be the restaurant itself or outside where he'd be enjoying it. It could be, you got to think about the things around him. Would the things around him look like they come from Mexico? So it's like I'm in the environment and the world of burrito time. And also then the question would be, where would they put those pictures? Would they put them just as a picture? Would they put an ad with it? And where to advertise it? How to reach people? One thing to think always, Milo, if a company is just in Colorado, like this one started, or in a couple of states, their advertising is going to be very local. Sometimes you get a company that goes national, like McDonald's, and their advertising becomes very national. Then again, you have the national piece, but then you have the local franchise, and they want to do their own advertising because the national company is not going to advertise locally for them to capture their own business they need. So there's all kinds of levels of advertising that one has to think about. All right, so Ethan says, now they do ads that they put on TV and YouTube. That makes sense, yep. Yep, TV and YouTube, right? You've also got now Facebook, Instagram, things of that nature, right? Okay, so we're through all of our examples. We're still waiting for a couple of more. I'm gonna patiently wait and give you a couple. Milo, I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying there. It says, I'm in a box. Okay, if you're literally in a box, well, why don't you jump out? But I'm not quite sure what that means. I am not in a box, I'm at a table. I'm kind of in, you can see the city of New York giving you a great presentation, floating above the water. Ryan says, make a satisfying video of eating something. Very good, with Chipotle, right? Very Chipotle, and probably maybe with a friend or two, right? Because not just eating on your own, but you want to go out to eat and have fun with friends, something we're all looking forward to doing again as we come out of the stay-at-home restrictions in our local counties and our local states. But always you're going to be eating with a family member, your mother, your father, maybe your younger sister, older brother, and probably if you were doing advertising, you'd want to include all of those to make it seem very family-like, or your friends to make it seem like a group should go and enjoy the meal together. All right, I got it, Milo. Thank you, sir. All right, so still looking for any more examples. We've still got about 15 minutes. What we're going to do here is cover in just a minute the last section for today, which is called an overview for the team. So any more examples, throw them in, and we'll get to them in just a second. I hope you're enjoying this. I definitely have to say I'm enjoying talking to you about it. It's a lot to consider. And the more you can give me your feedback, the better, because it shows me how you're thinking about this information. I'm older now, 54, shall we say. Done several careers, but this education one in the last 25 years. And, it's always fascinating to me that when I used to teach, the team and people that I had to work with, both within the school and outside the school, to get my results and make sure that everybody was doing well and it's growing. And now as I travel the world and do admissions, I go to restaurants, I go to hotels, I work with families, I understand about their businesses, and I see and hear so much about what they have to do to make that business successful. Or I hear also when something changes in the world, in the marketplace, how they might have adjusted their business to do something more valuable or more necessary to the current climate. So it's a very fascinating thing to think about. All right, so no more examples here. So we're going to run on, just keep things moving here, and we're going to go to the last section here so we stay on track. And we're going to read this whole section, okay? Here we go. An overview of the team. You can see in our imagined story above that in order to buy a simple pair of jeans from Gap, it was necessary to have many steps of cooperation between many people. Without all those steps of cooperation, the Fishers would not have been able to sell those jeans. Below is a somewhat more complete but still partial listing of some sorts of people involved in this cooperation. We might think of them as the Gap team. Something to remember as you look through this list. Most of these folks weren't formally part of the Gap team. They didn't even start out with some big plan to build Gap, but rather were just pursuing their own lives and their own interests. So this theme is very true, and it's something we've been talking about since the beginning of this webinar for the last several weeks, is that you have a passion, you have an interest, you have something you want to do. And if you pursue that with strong interest, and you pursue that with the hope of being happy yourself and producing something valuable for others, then others out there will grab hold of that passion, whether it's a service you provide or a product you offer them, and they'll either buy it directly or a company will buy it because they need it to produce their own products. The kind of cooperation arises among people because they all get some satisfaction or benefit from the activity. Perhaps they are participating in order to get money to acquire things they want, or are just doing these things because they were interested in them for one reason or another. It is how the world works. So now we're just going to run through this list. Who helped the Gap? What kind of things were needed to partner with? Entrepreneurs, people who make jeans, owners and managers of the jeans company, people who make records and tapes of music, because that was part of their store, lawyers, real estate agents, building owners, loan officers to get the money, architects to help design the building, interior designers to design the inside of the building, contractors to build it, carpenters, electricians, carpet layers, painters, advertising company managers, advertising art directors, which kind of manage the overall theme, researchers for advertising, artists to draw and work both on the marketing as well as within the store itself, advertising writers, that's called copy. What am I going to put in the ad? Photographers, modeling agency owners and managers, because they need people to model the jeans. Models, makeup artists, magazine, advertising directors, salespersons, warehouse workers, because you got to store things, janitors to clean the place, office workers, disc jockeys to have the music, and rock bands for live fun performances. So a lot of different people, and that's just a partial list. So guess what? The list above leaves out lots of people. This team is surrounded by other teams that help them by exchanging needed products or services with them. For example, people built a clean water system to provide drinking water for San Francisco and to transport that water hundreds of miles to every building in San Francisco. People built a sewer system to take away dirty water and keep it from polluting the buildings in San Francisco. Who produced all the food in San Francisco every day? Who transported the food from the farms and places that package food to the grocery stores in San Francisco? Who built the refrigerators that kept the food from spoiling and the ovens that cooked the food? The list goes on and on. There are sorts of teams everywhere. Okay, so that goes on to the next section, and that wraps up what we're going to do as far as our reading today. Now I'm hoping we're going to do our last assignment, and then you've got some more interaction. Well, it'd be fun to go to New York, huh? Maybe I can get my associate James to send me there after this webinar. What do you think, huh? Anybody want to join me? Let me know. Okay, so all joking aside, now we're going to talk about the last assignment. It says, choose one item in your environment that you think is useful to a lot of people. So this is fresh now. This is a new thing here. So look around you in your environment. Something that you think is useful to a lot of people. Could be your bed, your computer, the refrigerator, program you're using, could be anything. Could be a pair of glasses that you need. Like I use these just to help my reading. You might have one prescription. So find this product. Find something in your environment that's useful to a lot of people. Tell me about the item briefly in detail. So in your little question and answer period, tell me what it is, and then work out some of the different companies and people with different jobs that probably contributed to bringing that product into existence and to your hands or into your home. So try to imagine, I don't know, 3 steps, 5 steps. If you want to go as many as 7, you can. If you have the check sheet in front of you, it says 20. That's a little bit too many for the purpose of this webinar. But if you were in the classroom, the teacher here would get you to extend that list to really break it down. So we're looking at something in your environment that you think is useful to a lot of people. Tell me what it is briefly. And then I want you to break down different companies and people or jobs that contributed to bringing that into your hands or into your home. Okay? Very simple. And we've got about 5+ minutes left, maybe 8. So we're going to do this as our last assignment. But I need you guys to respond now, or else we're just going to end up early and get lunch early. Okay, so Andrew says the TV in my room and phone. Great. So those are the things that are valuable. Why don't you pick one of them, although they're actually pretty similar, Andrew? And now you want to break down what are the different companies and jobs and professions that were necessary for the television producer of the television to work with in order to get that TV in your home, okay? So think about that. Think about that, and the same thing for anybody else, right? My food. Okay, Ryan, that's a pretty broad answer. I think you're talking about the groceries that you have in your refrigerator, maybe the grocery store. Maybe you could work it back, Ryan. So the grocery store, we just go there and everything's available to us. But how does it get there? What other companies? What other services does the Safeway or Albertsons or Target, call it Target, or Fred Meyer, who do they have to work with to put all that on display, to make that all available to you so that you can just go in and boom, 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 and buy it and jump out of the store to bring it back? Yes, Milo, I think we all want some food, huh? So Ryan says farmers. Okay, farmers help get the food, I guess. Got it, Ryan. Okay, that's very true. Who else? Are there workers on the farm? Is there a transportation company that gets it from the farm to the grocery store? What about at the grocery store? Who's involved? So think about all those sub-levels. And AJ says the internet. Excellent. So the internet are you talking as the example? And so who or what are some of the sub-steps that go involved in making the internet available to you every day? Phone managers to help the company run it. Hire the workers to build the phone. Excellent. 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 And the phone has certain physical pieces that have to be obtained, right? And there's the programming involved, to make the software of the phone work as well, right? So think about that. To kind of expand on your answer just a little bit. The idea is to stretch your mind a little bit, to think even something as silly as this little pin. They had to work, the makers of this pen had to work with somebody to create the plastics. They had to create with someone that does the printing. They had to work with an advertising company. They had to build a plant, a place to produce these pens. So eventually they had to lease or buy a plant to build it. And then once the pens were produced, they had to figure out, how do we advertise? Do we advertise to someone like Thomas to buy the pen, or more to Walmart or Buy-Mart or a Fred Meyer, a place that would sell the pen? And then once we do sell it, how do we package it? That's part of marketing. If we're going to sell it to the store, they're not going to package it for us. We have to present it in a certain way. Here come a couple great answers. We're going to cover them now. Isis uses her eraser here. It's large, pink, and rubber. A company would first have to gather the rubber. Exactly. Or buy from a company that produces the rubber. Then you got to shape the rubber. So you got to buy things that properly mold or shape it. Then you got to package it. Excellent, excellent, Isis. So to package it, you got to buy materials from someone else who produces the materials, because you're not going to necessarily produce that. That could be the plastic, that could be the wrapping, and you want to do it in such a way that you can sort of still see the eraser, right? You can't hide the eraser. Then it's shipped to the store. So now you've got a shipping company. and then the stores ship it out to people's homes. Well, that's true, especially in today's stay at home and also if you're Amazon. But when I was younger, we didn't ship as much. We just went to the store to buy our eraser. So that's a very good example, Isis. Thank you for sharing it. And if you really worked, you could think about several other companies or things that they had to work with, right? In a case like this too, the eraser company, maybe they are not doing a major advertising campaign to you or me, but they're working out how to package it and how to display it so that when it hits the store, the people that are going through the aisles of the supply store or the school supply store spot that eraser and want to buy it. Milo says the kitchen sink. The water that it comes there probably comes from some water company. Agreed. Usually run by the city, could be private. And then there was a designer to design it. Excellent. The sink itself, right? The design in it that went into building it, and a contractor to build it, without question. Of course, the sink is probably built by a contractor or by a company, and in the company would be like a manager. And then, of course, imagine, how did it even get into your house? Well, it had to be shipped from that company to your house. It had to be the right price and the right style that your mother or father or the builder of the house wanted. And then someone had to install it in the house, right? So very, very good. Then, of course, when you think about the sink too, my friend, you have the porcelain or the stainless steel material. You have the need to shape it a certain way, right? Build it this way. You have so many different things to think about. So there's the kitchen sink example. Excellent. Okay, paper, very good example. Okay, AJ, paper, I agree. And if you want to give me some of the specifics that would go involved in paper, how do we get paper? From trees? Do you cut down the trees? Do you then send them to a mill? Do you then, chop it all up? And then, there's a whole process for pressing it. There's people that there's probably packaging that you have to work on. Then you have, again, the materials and how to package it up so it goes to the store and is presentable to you so you get interested when you go to buy it, right? Not to mention there has to be some kind of quality control in all of this. Lumber workers with the paper. I agree, AJ. Okay, folks, ladies and gentlemen, kids, families, etc. We are coming to the end. We're about a minute or two away. So I just want to say my thank yous. We do have more to cover. There was a section on electricity that we did last time, but since that's maybe a month and a half ago, I want to cover it again next week, if not just at least in summary. And then we might do a final assignment when that's done, which you can submit to me through the events at delphian.org. So it looks here that we covered enough today that we have probably one more class next Monday. And I look forward to those of you that were here today to joining me there. It's been a lot of fun teaching you guys. Oh, here comes a great example, I think. Let me read this. It's been a lot of fun teaching you guys. Let me share this one last big example. Ethan, our pool is important now in Florida. Exactly, because it's warming up and you're home. We got the guy who does the pipes to get water to it. The person who does the chemicals in the pool. Excellent. Cleans it. The college, the training he had to do originally to get there, right? The person who shaped the metal for the pipes, the one who dug up the metal. There's a person who owns the house that we have and hires the guy who cut the lawn and put the chemicals in the pool. My dad is working to pay for the house, and the guy, that's right. There are pavers who shaped the pool. Excellent, excellent. The men who dug the hole in the ground, different company, right? Has a digger, construction. The tilers who made the tiles for the pool, the people who dug up the material for the tile originally to make the tile, and the people who dug up the metal for the shovels to dig up the pool. Wow, amazing there, Ethan. You could go on and on. Great example. I really appreciate how detailed you got, and I think that's a great place to end. Bye, thank you. Hey, bye to you, Isis. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. It's really a pleasure for me. As I've said before, I used to teach for years. Now I don't get to do that as often, but it's really a love of mine, and I really enjoyed being with you here today. I hope you were here for other weeks with me, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Now, after lunch, I think at 1:30, we have Sterling, who's going to do a webinar on animals, and Corey is coming to you a little bit later with a webinar on writing. And if you need anything from us, you can access our schedule online at our website, delphian.org. You can also ask questions at events@delphian.org as well, okay? So thank you very much, and have a great day. Now let's see if I can successfully share.